Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Wonderful. Welcome to the CalHFA Audit Committee meeting. My name is Delilah Sotelo, and I chair the CalHFA Audit Committee. I'd like to introduce Dr. Fred White, who is a fellow member of the Audit Committee, is also a member of the Board of Directors. And we don't have our representative from the State Treasurer's Office, but we will go ahead and proceed because I do believe that we have a quorum. So thank you all for being here today, and it's very nice to see everyone. I love our new backgrounds. So with that, Courtney, why don't we go ahead and do an official roll call?
Of course. Mr. Henning for Treasurer Ma. Absent. Dr. White
Here?
and Chair Sotelo.
Here.
And I'd like to ask Dr. White if there's anyone else in the room with you that's 18 years or older.
There is no one else in the room that's 18 years or older.
And same question to you, Chair Sotelo.
There's no one else in the room.
At this time, I'd like to remind both members that while doing remote meetings, we require that your camera be kept on. And if for some reason a technical issue arises, we would ask that you announce that you're experiencing technical issues. With that, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Courtney. I appreciate that. Why don't we go ahead and move to the approval of the minutes from September 19th? You can take a quick look at them, see if there's any changes. They were distributed in your committee package earlier.
No changes, Chair Sotelo, and I
Great.
move to approve.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's go ahead and do we need to vote on that, Courtney, or is it just approval by motion?
Approval by motion, unanimous consent.
Great. Okay, so with that, the meeting minutes are approved. Today, for item number 3, I have just a very quick, our comment today is that, we do have our annual information security update, and that's always been a robust discussion. We're very excited to have our new deputy director here. There's really no other, I guess the only other comment that I have from the chair is that we will be doing a report back to the overall board tomorrow. So Dr. White, if there's anything that I missed in my report back, feel free to join in and speak up and let me know. Or if there's comments that you'd like me to make beforehand, just let me know beforehand. Today, we're also going to entertain staff proposed amendments to our charter. So hopefully, Dr. White, you got a chance to take a look at the charter, and we expect that we can have a discussion about that at today's meeting. But other than that, let's go ahead and just get started. Let's move on to item number 4, where we have Pooja Deshmukh. Oh, so close. She's our Deputy Chief Information Officer, and she's here to introduce our update for this year. So welcome, Pooja, and we look forward to hearing about all the wonderful things that you guys are doing in IT.
Thank you, Chair Sotelo. Good morning, everybody. Madam Chair Sotelo, members of the Audit Committee, Director Hall, peers, staff, and members of public. Good morning. My name is Pooja Deshmukh, and I am the Deputy Chief Information Officer for the agency. Along with Russell Nakau, who's the Chief Information Security Officer, we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about the annual information security update. Every year, CalHFA spends a considerable amount of time and resources in ensuring that we are meeting our mandatory, regulatory, and legal information security compliance standards towards protecting our sensitive information. The CalHFA Information Security Program is important as it continues to build confidence in our ability to conduct the day-to-day operations without disruptions. This program helps in protecting against cyber attacks, security threats, and further assists in preventing data breaches, fraud, and loss of critical information to the CalHFA as an agency. Next slide, please. Moving on, we have a short agenda to present. We'll be giving you a brief update about the information security management and its goals at CalHFA, and how it is crucial for the success of CalHFA doing business as a state entity, and the measures we are taking to protect the CalHFA data and systems. We will also talk about some cybersecurity topics that are of relevance in the current threat landscape that we sit in, and also of interest to CalHFA. And lastly, we'll conclude by our presentation by looking forward to the 24-25 and beyond as our information security program enhances. Next slide, please. So the information security management program, it's the process of protecting CalHFA's data and assets against potential threats. And the goals here of the information security program are to basically minimize the fear and uncertainty, and making sure that CalHFA information is available to staff and to validated users who need access to that information. And it is a balancing act in the need to protect the CalHFA assets against the threats, and also to balance out the requirements for operating as a business. Next slide, please. This slide basically highlights what we are going to be seeing in the next couple of slides. We'll talk about business execution, where we'll talk about some of the bright spots that we were able to achieve in the fiscal year 23-24, and the remedial work that continues in 24-25 and beyond. We'll talk about material risks and what it means for CalHFA. We will also talk about the external environment and how it impacts us and our information security program. And then we will talk about the security strategy that is currently in implementation for 24-25 and beyond, as we are enhancing our security posture. And then we will talk about the current state, and we will share the action plan for the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. As part of the business execution, information security is a crucial and essential part of doing business at CalHFA to ensure compliance with our regulations and foster trust with our customers. We have identified 5 different domains in the business areas for data protection, and we've for 5 different business domains, and we have highlighted some bright spots from last year and the remedial work that is going on. I'll talk briefly about each one of those business domains. The data protection is important to handle the sensitive data, financial information, personal details, proprietary business insights, and so on and so forth. We have been implementing cybersecurity resilience as part of information technology overall. And we are also working on tightening our infrastructure so that we can ensure we have a protected data that is available to CalHFA staff as and when is needed. We are in works trying to do more remedial work, because this threat landscape changes pretty much every day. And we are tailoring our information security trainings to ensure that our first line of defense, which is CalHFA staff and employees, are prepared and know how to report and handle scenarios that come up as part of external threats that are prevailing in our environment. For regulatory compliance, we have been aligning with California Department of Technology and Office of Information Security, and completing the mandatory guidelines provided by them as part of a couple of information security audits that are ongoing. Sorry, was there a question?
No.
Okay. And then our remediation work is continuing with our partners, with California Department of Technology, Office of Information Security, and our other external partners to ensure that we are meeting the regulatory needs, and those are laid out by the state, and also which are industry best practices. Moving on to maintaining our customer trust. The customers expect that their data is secured when dealing with us as an agency. A breach can damage their trust, lead to customer attrition, and harm the brand loyalty for CalHFA. So we are working each and every day to ensure that we continue to build that credibility and ensure that our data is protected and against any threat vectors that are out in the industry. And as for operational efficiencies in this digital age, we are balancing the IT security with operational efficiency. It's really essential to ensure that we don't impact our operational efficiencies by just imposing security methods that do not allow our staff to do their work. In the past year, we have adopted an acceptable artificial intelligence policy for us to work as an agency, which also includes some elements of generative AI, which is the hot topic these days in the overall. We have also conducted 10 phishing campaigns in the past year, 15 different information security training modules across CalHFA. And we have created multiple new information security policies that were identified as a gap by our CDT audit, Office of Information Security Audit. And we are continuing on that work of creating more and updating our policies and procedures as is required by aligning to the California Department of Technology. Next slide, please. Moving on to material risks. So when there is an identified risk that poses a material impact, that is what we are defining as a material risk. It refers to the potential for an event or a condition to significantly impact CalHFA's financial health, operations, and/or reputation. In the context of information security, the material risk involves assessing and managing threats that could lead to substantial data breaches, cyber attacks, or other security incidents that are not in our control. We are happy to inform you that we have had 0 information security incidents on CalHFA systems in the fiscal year 23-24. We have had 2 external business partners that have reported data breaches with no direct impact to CalHFA's financial standing or the operations. And those business partners have taken remedial actions to identify the impacted Californians with breach notifications and offered credit monitoring. Next slide, please. So continuing with the external factors that require our utmost response. In the context of cybersecurity, we are referring to the external factors that can affect the security of our cyberspace. So we have seen ransomware being a permanent threat to all agencies and environments, including CalHFA. A comprehensive data on the full scope of the ransomware threat is difficult to obtain because it is a changing landscape every hour as we speak, particularly with the cyber incident reporting requirements that are still evolving with CDT and Office of Information Security. And a lot of times the victims are reluctant to come and share information about a breach that they might have experienced themselves. So we as a response are effectively and regularly testing our technology recovery plans, our cyber incident response plans, and these are in accordance with the requirements from CDT, Department of Technology, and Office of Information Security. The artificial intelligence is one of the most powerful technologies of our time, and it continues to receive substantial public attention and media coverage because of obvious reasons. Advances in large language models and other foundational algorithms, combined with more affordable computing power and access to data, have really given rise to a new generation of AI tools, which are coming up so fast that it is really hard to keep up with them each and every day. However, these tools are actually capturing public's imaginations in 2023. You must have seen some examples of personality impositions that have happened over in the internet space. And AI is definitely continuing to evolve at a very, very rapid pace. And in the coming years, we see its prevalence more so in our systems. At CalHFA, currently, our AI presence is limited to minimal for internal use only. We did roll out an AI usage policy for all staff so that they are aware of what entails if they are going to be using any sort of AI platform or an AI tool. And we are also training our staff annually, as well as multiple times a year, and we will be including AI content going forward. Another external event that is of utmost importance to mention is the new information security program audit that we participated as an agency in 2023. It is an audit conducted by Office of Information Security as part of the CDT. And we completed this audit in October of 2023. I must emphasize that this was our first time as an agency participating in this audit. There were certain findings, and remediation efforts are on track to meet and remediate the findings before the next audit review cycle. This audit is a 4-year cycle, so we are in year 2, and by June of 2025, we are targeting to remediate as many findings as possible, which is because that is our audit review cycle check-in, year 2 of the 4-year cycle. The next audit will be in 27-28, and that is the time that we will be audited completely yet again. Also, we are participating in the information security assessment in December of 2024, which is again being conducted by CDT. They use CMD, California Military Department, and they will be coming on premises and doing an independent information security audit for us. Next slide, please. Madam Chair, were you asking a question?
Sorry, I was muted. When are the results of that particular audit available?
The one that happens in December, the CMD has promised to get us the preliminary results by February. So we don't have the final date, but it should be second quarter of next year. We should have the final results.
Okay, the one that's going to happen in December of
2024. Yes.
Great.
They will be here December 6th to 9th.
Great.
I think that is the dates that they have, but that can change. We are still in communication with them to get everything sorted out for now.
Mm-hmm.
The next important highlighted information that I want to talk about is the security strategy. It basically consists of the information technology and information security initiatives that we are undertaking as a CalHFA information technology team aimed at protecting the CalHFA's information assets. These initiatives include implementing new security technologies, conducting vulnerability assessments, and developing policies and procedures to mitigate risks. The importance of these initiatives lies in our ability to safeguard the sensitive data, ensuring compliance with regulations, and protecting CalHFA from cyber threats. For visibility, we've included this slide, this security strategy slide that talks about all the initiatives that impact our overall IT budget for fiscal year 24-25. These funds have already been accounted for. And since this is a very composite slide, there is an additional handout in a PDF format if you want to look at it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how do we measure what we are actually doing for information security? So the cybersecurity maturity is how we measure CalHFA's ability to effectively manage and improve its cybersecurity practices over time and ensure that we are safeguarding data and systems and assets for CalHFA. It involves assessing the current state of our security measures, identifying areas of improvement, and implementing strategies to enhance overall security posture. In order to measure, we basically use various tools and matrices like the cybersecurity framework or the cybersecurity maturity model. And here we have displayed two outputs of the maturity model evaluations. The first one is the Office of Information Security, CDT, California Department of Technology, cybersecurity maturity score that we as CalHFA received at the end of October 2023's Information Security Program evaluation. And it shows that we are, these are the first initial benchmarks for us because this was our first time doing the audit. And it shows that we have been doing what we are telling you and we are telling our agency. And the second one is the nationwide cybersecurity review. This is a national assessment that we participate in. And for CalHFA for 2023, we were at an average score of 6.36. I should mention the first one, the OIS cybersecurity maturity model. The scale is 0 to 4, of which we are at a 2.02. And the second one, the NCSR audit, it's a scale of 1 to 7, of which we are at 6.36.
Wow, congratulations. That is huge. That's fantastic. I mean, just in comparison alone to other state agencies and looking at 7 entities, that's great. And then nationally, I mean, is it national compared to other state agencies nationally that are comparable state agencies, or what's the who do they evaluate on the nationwide?
So NCSR state agencies, cities, counties, all kinds of entities participate in it. We don't get a whole gamut of who all participated in a year, but they tell us nationally where the average is versus where we are at CalHFA.
That's wonderful. Congratulations to the team.
Thank you.
Huge.
So achieving cybersecurity maturity helps CalHFA by increasing our resilience to cyber threats, as you hear all about it in the news pretty much every day, and minimizing our business disruptions and protecting our sensitive data. So this is a benchmark. This is a first-year benchmark, the Office of Information Security maturity model. We will have another score in 27-28 when we go in and do a full audit with them. And then we do the annual nationwide cybersecurity review. The results for 24 should come out December of 2024 or January of 2025. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, before we open up for questions, our action plans for 24, 25 and beyond, we did present this security strategy in slide number 8 that kind of talks about the actions that we are taking and the initiatives that are being undertaken to ensure we are moving with the time, because pretty much every day things are changing in the threat landscape. So we will continue to uplift our business performance and ensure that that our data and systems are protected. The actions to external changes will be executed by the CalHFA ISO team. We get notifications from CDT on pretty much a weekly basis of threat vectors that are out there and remediations needed for systems that we might have. No action is required for a from our material risk position so far, because only when we know that there has been a threat or a breach on our external partners can we actually take any actions or even ask questions to those partners. And the security strategy will continue as scheduled for fiscal year 24-25 and beyond as the threat landscape changes. The next audit committee update will be in 2025. And I'll pause here for questions.
Thank you so much, Posha. Can you go back to the security strategy matrix?
Sure.
I found it to be very helpful, and I think this is really the first time we're seeing it comprehensively. I just had a couple of questions to ask. When the dark blue that says that it's not started, and those items that are highlighted not started side, it's just
Yes.
because the timeline associated with those are not, it's not scheduled to start yet, right? It's not that it
That's
should have
correct.
started and we're late. Okay. So where it goes into the red, where it actually says what is late, that's the red category. And that should
That
have
is
been over
correct.
3/4, but we're late because it should have been last year, or, you know, the Wi-Fi network, for example, is that late because that should have happened earlier, or it's late because it hasn't been started yet?
It is late because our equipment delivery was delayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
We
that's
did not
outside of your
capture the
control.
exact reasons there, but we were supposed to start in July, actually July to August of 2024, but our equipment delivery got delayed.
Okay, and it hasn't started because of that. Okay.
It has actually started now because we are working with a vendor. So it has started now. When we created this report, it had not. We had not reflected that we received the equipment. We are in the process of working on.
Okay.
However, it is late.
Okay, great. So this is really helpful, and it really, you know, I think outlines for us where we are in the overall, you know, implementation of the strategic plan. So I think this is great. My only comment would be that instead of using the blue to highlight the alternate quarters, that you use like a grayscale, because
Okay.
it's confusing the color pattern. But you know,
Sure.
me.
Yeah. And actually, that did not come out really well on the screen. We had a very, very different. Yeah, but I completely get it. We'll change the scale on this.
Yeah. And then I really appreciated your incorporation of the AI technology as a point of focus and the point of area. I think that's really, from a public policy standpoint, you know, having a position on that and having that incorporated into the way we think about the work that we do, I think is super important. And the fact that we have, you know, a policy and training around that for our team members, I think that's really progressive and that's important. So thank you for noting that. And then lastly, congratulations again for, you know, our ranking on both those, you know, both those benchmarks and scales. I think that's fantastic. Very, very proud of the team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. White, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Sotelo. I have a few questions. Again, congratulations. I will reiterate Chair Sotelo's comments on how successful you are in terms of this performance and your rankings. The entry into the AI space, how are we assessing just the AI tech? Like, how do we know where to go, who to use, what's best, because it's so much out there. Just, you know, briefly, how,
Sure.
you know.
So we are, CDT office, California Department of Technology has laid out a framework for us to leverage so that we can, when we are working with vendors and or trying to evaluate technology, that we can use that framework. We have really not delved in depth into it because they released it in September of 2024, the actual framework. So we are going to leverage that as a framework to at least do our assessments of vendors and figuring out which ones to work with and which ones are going to be our partners in the future. But we are also working towards creating our own framework, so that the ones that we can use for CalHFA, because we kind of do a business a little differently. We have a different niche need to be able to facilitate our business requirements. So we will be taking that CDT template and evaluating it for utilization within CalHFA.
Okay. and this was my last question I'm going to ask now, just based on what you said just now. How big is the team again?
Russell, you want to take that question?
Oh, the security team. Yeah, so it is myself plus 3 full-time employees, and we do have 1 student.
Okay, sounds light. Based on what you do every day and what and the threats that you face every day. But thank you. That's good to know. I'm gonna jump off AI, but I applaud that. I'm trying to learn AI myself and who to trust, what to trust. So looking forward to what your framework will discover. In terms of the cybersecurity maturity metrics, could you go back to that slide? I just
Sure.
Yeah,
The next one, Joe.
that one. Yeah, I mean, these numbers are great for the agency. I have a couple of questions around we do the measurements, we take that information and we score ourselves, or how do we? Okay.
So it is California Department of Technology, Office of Information Security. They do audits for 70 plus entities. So the first line item that you see, state agency average, that is a number that the actual OIS cybersecurity maturity matrix numbers were given to us by California Department of Technology.
Okay.
So they are the ones who conduct the audit. They are the ones who work with the various agencies under different umbrellas. So like for us, for BCSH, and then they are the ones who give out these numbers. And these we confirm with them before sharing if we are okay. And they say that these are numbers that are out there for us to share.
Okay. And I see the first box as state related, and then that obviously the second box is nationwide. Are the metrics more stringent in the state? Not our 2.02 is great. It just out on a 4 scale says, okay, we always have room for improvement versus we're 6.36 on a 7. We're totally knocking it out of the park nationally, which is what CalHFA has always done nationally. Just curious about the state metrics, if there's like some stringent.
Yeah. So I can speak a little bit, and then Russell, if you want to add, I think for the state, for us as a state, our measures are much different and much more stringent than the nationwide evaluation that happens. And also, the state security model talks about processes, procedures, and actual implementations of those controls. That's why it's a little more stringent in my view. But Russell, do you want to add something as well?
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. Yeah, there's a set of rules or findings for the OIS, the top ones for the state agency average security maturity. But for the nationwide cybersecurity review, it's a little bit more general. They're asking, not specific, hey, do you have policy XYZ? It's, has your entity implemented a security strategy, and you grade yourself. So that's why I think they're a little bit different. Like Pooja said, there's very strict guidelines for the CDT and CMD independent security assessments, whereas the nationwide cybersecurity is a self-assessment.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you both, Chair Sotelo. I don't have any additional questions at this moment.
Thank you, Dr. White. Those questions were very helpful. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and open the topic for public comment. Courtney, I'm not sure if there's anyone in the audience that has their hands raised, or if there's anyone in the audience, period.
I will go ahead and ask if there's any members of the public who would like to address the committee. Please use the raised hand icon. And aside from Tina Johnson Hall, I'm not seeing any other hands raised, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tina for her comment. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Johnson Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I just also wanted to congratulate the team I'm not sure if it was mentioned, I did not hear it, but this is the first time that we have transitioned to these types of audits. Prior to that, we were using a whole different methodology. And if I am completely transparent, I was a little bit worried because we didn't have this team, as well as they did not have a whole lot of time to prepare. And so it's sort of, I think it's a hidden gem that we were ready to go, and did in spite of that, and still performed at or exceeded what most others did. So that's a little something that Pooja and Russell are just way too modest in their presentation, that I wanted to flag for the committee members. I'm extremely proud of the work that they did here. Extremely proud of their work because of that particular thing. So kudos to the team. You guys did, I think, spectacular.
Thank you, Director Hall. And I would be remiss to mention that it's all under the leadership of our Chief Information Officer, Ashish Kumar. He is away at jury duty, so I was just subbing in for the presentation for him.
That's right. We miss him. We always see him. Well, yeah, congratulations. And we're in good hands with you guys. So I'm glad to know that. Wonderful. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next agenda item number 5. We have some proposed audit committee charter changes, and here to present those staff recommended changes is Ms. Rebecca Franklin. She's the interim Chief Deputy Director. And Rebecca, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Sotelo. I'm kind of presenting from both roles today. So also, as you guys know, the Director of Enterprise Risk Management and Compliance. I don't have any slides for you today. I think the charter was in your packets, both the red line and the clean version, and then the staff memo. Really at the core of it, it seemed like a lot of changes. If you looked at the red line version, that was just kind of the charter itself hadn't been brought to the committee in a while. So we wanted to clean up some language. The meat of the change is that second part, adding a risk management reporting function to the committee. So we're proposing to expand the scope of the committee from just an audit perspective to an audit and risk perspective. I know that you do have an annual report on information technology, but the enterprise risk is much broader of a subject than just information security. When we're talking about a profit and loss, business, market conditions, et cetera, anything that would prohibit CalHFA from achieving its goals and, onward to its mission and vision would be considered a risk. So at the request of the board chair, Mr. Cervantes, we added a reporting and kind of an enterprise risk framework to this committee. It's something I'm very familiar with designing and implementing for a board structure. We kind of modeled it similar to what we did when I was formerly at CalPERS. So essentially, this committee would be responsible for being advised on the enterprise risk framework as its entirety. So how are we assessing risk? How are we, and having incremental report outs, maybe annually, maybe biannually, on the status of those larger strategic risks. Again, anything that would prohibit us from achieving our overall strategic goals and mission. And then, so that it's kind of two parts. If we would be presenting the framework itself for the committee to review, and then as the framework is developed, then it would just be regular reporting. And it kind of gives you a sense of what the risks we would be looking at, without doing a very deep dive, not knowing exactly what we would present. The way I like to structure it is the board would be updated at a strategic level or an operational level if an operational risk were to rise to the occasion of affecting our strategic position. So I'm here to answer any questions of the committee, but really that's the essential big change for the charter.
So, Ms. Franklin, thank you very much for that. I guess I have a couple of comments. One is I appreciate the increase in the oversight role. I think it is more aligned to, you know, the original intent of the committee. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have a broader risk assessment role. I think with that, the implication, however, is that we're probably going to have to increase the frequencies of our meetings so that we at least have it once a quarter, or are able to have a more robust and dynamic agenda when it comes to risk evaluation. I think that the 5 areas as you define them, I'm sorry, the 6 areas in which you define them: credit, market, compliance, technology, legal, and business continuity, I think are significant, and they're broad, and they're going to need a lot of just interface and frequency of meetings. So I just want to be mindful of that. But overall, I'm excited about the broadening of the definition of the risk in our charter, and the opportunity to do the biannual state leadership accountability report, and augment that with other security risk reports, as well as market risk reports. And given our new committee that Dr. White chairs, I think it's a perfect interface with that committee as well. So for this, I appreciate staff's rigorous redlining of the document. And there were a couple of areas that I had questions on, but I think that could be clarified with just discussions with legal. I don't think that it arises to comments that I need to make at this time. So with that, Dr. White, I'm not seeing the screen. So Ms. Johnson Hall, have you had any comments to add to this? Or Dr. White, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the proposed amendment?
Chair Sotelo, I say this as I am leaving the agency, but I will say that I wholesale concur with your assessment regarding the number of times that this committee should be meeting. I don't, in other boards that I have participated on, where you're having the sheer amount of growth that we are anticipating, we have met at a minimum once a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Just even if it was a relatively short meeting, there is just such a significant change in our growth as well as oversight of our agency.
Mm-hmm.
As demonstrated in Pooja's presentation earlier today, where it is clear that there is that some of that oversight came via an executive order, as which is really was the genesis. So this is something that the state is taking really quite seriously. And I believe that your assessment, Chair, is absolutely on point.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. White?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Sotelo. I echo your comments, and Director Johnson Hall. Tina and I did talk about this earlier in the year, the need to just increase the focus around risk, because I see this agency as a lender, and having risk at the table. In other committees that I've been a part of, investment committees, you've had risk at the table as almost a voting arm. I don't think we need to go that far here. We can control it by doing exactly what we're doing now, adding it to the audit committee, which I think is a great idea. And I think it's really going to get a lot more busier with that. So I think you need more frequent meetings, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this committee, with the risk arm to it, you're going to be able to get ahead of your state partners with a lot of different items. I think it's going to be a very great tool for the agency going forward and how to manage our partners in the state.
Yes, definitely, Dr. White. I definitely see that this is a way for us to continue to support staff and provide, a level of accountability that's always critical to a lender like ourselves. So again, let me echo thanking the staff and, the legal team and Ms. Franklin for introducing the verbiage. And, I think that I would consider a motion to adopt the proposed recommendations. And let me just open it up to public comment before we actually vote these in. I do believe we need to vote them in, right? These modifications, vote to send them to the board, or should we just go ahead and send them to the board?
Mark, could you weigh in?
I was just raising my hand. So what the advisory committee would be doing would be voting to recommend the changes to the board.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So with that, let me go ahead and open it for public comment. Courtney, you can direct any public comment questions.
Of course. If there are any members of the public who would like to make a comment, please use the raised hand function on Zoom. And there are no hands raised.
Great. So I will consider a motion to approve staff recommendations pertaining to the audit committee charter.
And I'm sorry, this is Mark again. I don't believe that this needs to be done through a formal motion. I mean, since the advisory committee is advisory, but if you but you should agree that you do want to recommend this to the board.
Let me just ask a question. Courtney, did we agendize this as an action item?
Not on this agenda, but for tomorrow at the board meeting, when you do your report out, you can report that you were in agreement with moving forward with the amendments, and then the full board will take action.
Okay.
On the item.
Okay, so the fact that item number 5 was not agendized as an action item, let's go ahead and move this to the chair report back to the board for their action. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Rebecca and team, for getting this done so well. And I just want to make sure that the board members tomorrow have an opportunity to take a look at the red line. So as long as it was included in the overall package, I think I'm fine. Moving on to item number 6.
And Chair Sotelo, when I'll be at the board meeting if for any assistance on explaining the charter changes as well for the voting item.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So with that, are there other committee matters that need to be addressed at this time that were not agendized? Okay. The only other question I have is our forecast for an additional meeting before the end of the year. Is staff recommending another meeting at the end of this year, before the end of this year? Ms. Johnson Hall or Courtney, do we have anything?
Chair,
I can take that. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
This is the second meeting of the year. We had one last month, so we don't anticipate any more committee meetings this calendar year. We are working on the board calendar for next calendar year, and we'll be coming back with a proposed schedule, which will reflect the chair's remarks on maybe more frequent meetings. So
Right.
we would be, the goal and the intention is to meet obviously more frequently and not kind of cluster at the end of the year, but kind of more spread out.
Yeah, we could meet quarterly at least, that I think would be helpful. Okay, great. So with that, item number 7, I'm opening up the opportunity for the public to make any comments. Courtney, hearing, do we have anyone that's interested in speaking?
Anyone in the public would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. And I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, great. So with that, not seeing anyone wishing to speak, let's go ahead and move to adjournment. If there's no objection, we'll go ahead and move to adjournment. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today and